Hi, I'm Samhita.
My name is Maximilian Chavez.
My name is Carmelita Lee.
Our product for today is for children with autism because they find it extremely hard to identify their emotions and cope with stress.
We created the Beta Band, which is essentially a headband. It reads your beta waves, which fall in between a certain low and high beta wave, and if you're outside that range, then your brain is not acting as a normal brain.
Project Invent has definitely impacted my sense of teamwork. I can collaborate a lot more with my peers, have that design thinking into mind. How can we target our users and have the best influence and the greatest impact on their lives?
Working and coding and doing all that stuff, it gave me a chance to be familiar so that I'm not as intimidated going into college. And it's actually made me a lot more excited for freshman year of college.
We've definitely opened our minds up a lot more, and we've learned how to cope with maybe our product not working and still learning from our mistakes.
Having interacted with people who are on the spectrum, young adults and little children, and seeing what they go through and understanding their experiences, and then being able to put that into a product, engineer something, and then see that truly affect them and help them.
A lot of people try and create products for people that they don't even they never even talked to before. So we had a lot of things that we thought would be good, but after talking to people who actually use wheelchairs, they were we don't have problems with that. So it just you really should talk to people and get to know them before you make assumptions about things that they struggle with.
I think the impact has been huge, and it's changed my outlook towards for project-based learning and education a lot, actually. The reason is because prior to Project Invent, I focused a lot on just developing technical skills and having the students learn laser cutting, 3D printing, soldering, sort of for the sake of learning 3D printing, laser cutting, and soldering. But working with Project Invent and anchoring these technical skills to a real-world problem has really, I think, made the learning experiences more meaningful for the students so that they understand what the application is, and has helped with retention and student involvement. It's been really great.
None of these girls came into this project thinking that they were inventors or makers, or that this kind of thing was something they even wanted to do. All of them, I believe, have been radically transformed just by this idea that the world is invented, right, and designed, and that they can participate in designing that world, right? I watched them gain confidence interviewing people, really understanding and delving into design thinking and human-centered design. I watched them struggle through prototyping and then succeed and feel really empowered by that. We have 4 women here who are ready to take on the world and change the world with the invention that they're making, and this is not something that they would have even considered doing in September of this year.
It's been really amazing being able to turn a problem into a solution just through engineering. And so I think Project Invent has taught me that anything that you see out in the world, if you think there's a way that you can fix it, it's totally doable, and that there are resources out there and people out there willing to support you throughout the journey.
This is bigger than just us.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Project Invent's Demo Day X East Coast 2022. My name is Amy Crump, and I'll be your MC for today. Today, you'll be hearing pitches from teams of talented, innovative high school students from around the country who have created inventions for social good. These students are incredible. Throughout this year, they've built inventions from the ground up with the goal of helping solve problems in society. These students are building the skills to save the world, and they're doing so with the incredible support network and infrastructure of Project Invent, which empowers young people to innovate all year round, and today is connecting these impressive young people and the hard work they've done with deeply accomplished investors, executives, and visionaries in the tech industry. A little bit about me before we get started. I teach architectural drafting at Apex High School in Apex, North Carolina. In 2019, I mentored a Project Invent team, Team Perch, that invented a self-guided autonomous caddy for people with ambulatory disabilities that would hold grocery bags and such for the user. I love the design thinking process, teaching students empathy and how to look at the world around them with a designer's eye. My role today is simply to facilitate and keep things moving so you can hear from these amazing students and accomplished panelists. Now, before we meet our judges and hear the pitches, some logistics for today. This is a 2.5-hour event, but don't worry, you can grab a snack, take a break if you need to. When pitches begin, each team of students will present a 5-minute pitch video, followed by a 4-minute question and answer session with our panelists. At the end of the event, judges will deliberate and choose 4 teams to award. While students present, here are a few ways to interact with the teams. Check out the features in Zoom. Use reactions to cheer teams on, and the chat to share words of encouragement. Let's test out the chat now by wishing all of our teams and students good luck. Finally, you'll notice a link to donate. Project Invent is a nonprofit organization, and the work that we do year-round to help these students ideate and incubate inventions for social good, and events like Demo Day, connecting those students to industry professionals, are all made possible by donors like yourself. Project Invent is able to train teachers, run today's event, and support teams because of the generosity of our community. So please consider donating. And now, without further ado, let's meet our panelists. Our first panelist is Stephanie Farst, an adjunct lecturer at Kellogg School of Management and the co-founder of Tiny Brands. Welcome, Stephanie. In a quick sentence, what are you most excited about seeing from our students today?
Hi, everybody. Excited to be here. Quick sentence is I'm excited to find out how many times you failed this year, because I think failure generates success.
Absolutely, yes. Thanks, Stephanie. Our second panelist is Ajit Singh, co-founder and executive chairman of our sponsor, ThoughtSpot. Welcome, Ajit. In a quick sentence, what are you most excited about seeing from our students today?
Yeah, this is my first time with this event, so really excited to be here. I am looking forward to just hearing everybody what they've done. In particular, I'd love to learn how they have interacted with their users to learn about their problems and validate it as they went through the process of solving the problems.
Excellent. Thanks, Ajit. Our third panelist is Ken Rudin, Senior Vice President for User Growth and Embedded Analytics at ThoughtSpot. Welcome, Ken. In a quick sentence, what are you most excited about seeing from our students today?
Well, hi, everyone. This is also my first time doing this, so I'm really excited. I'm really, I love working with builders, so I'm excited to hear about the energy that everyone else has from this, but I also want to figure out hear about where these ideas came from, how they came up with the ideas initially.
Awesome. So this event is sponsored by ThoughtSpot. Their mission is, at ThoughtSpot, we believe the world would be a better place if everyone had quicker, easier access to facts. Our search and AI-driven analytics platform makes it simple for anyone at your organization to ask and answer questions with data. Bob Baxley, Senior Vice President, Design and Experience at ThoughtSpot, is one of Project Invent's early advisors and has judged multiple demo days since Project Invent's founding. We're super thankful to them for helping make our demo day possible and for providing the $2,000 of funding for the prizes awarded today. 4 teams will be awarded. Now that you've met our panelists, it's time for the main event. Each team will have 5 minutes to pitch and 4 minutes for questions from our panelists. A quick reminder to our amazing student teams before we begin. You've done the hard work. You've identified your problem to solve. You've designed and redesigned you've interviewed users. You've spent your dozens of hours coding and building circuit boards and so much more. Now is your time to celebrate that hard work, to show off what you've done, to advocate for your invention, to learn and grow with some of the best professionals in the industry. So take a deep breath, shake off those nerves and have fun with it. Let's do this. After each student has completed their pitch and Q&A, So our first pitch is Voxheart from Perrysburg Schools in Perrysburg, Ohio. Voxheart is a simple, affordable way to provide a voice to the voiceless.
My name is Kennedy Raleigh, and with me is
Nabil Arif,
Nabil Qadri.
And today we're going to present to you Team Strong's Voxheart. So let's start off with the basics. Team Strong, who are we? We're a team of 8 members consisting of Nabil Arif, Tony Chen, Nabil Qadri, Julia Kohler, Adam Roberts, Kennedy Raleigh, Gavin Shine, and Jillian Spear.
Our story begins about a year ago when we all applied for this program, and once we did apply for the program, when we got in, we started to think about how and what we would create a product for. And so we came across a community partner, Sunshine Communities, and they are a nonprofit organization in Northwest Ohio for disabled individuals.
This is Bradley Strong.
Yeah, so Bradley Strong is bound to a wheelchair, and he's nonverbal, so he has trouble communicating with his caretakers. So other problems with devices on the market is that they're overly complicated. For example, one of the devices had an array of buttons where it would be too complex to string together the sentences, and it wouldn't be usable for Bradley and people like him. So our solution is to have a simple 2-button system that goes on a retractable arm that attaches to the wheelchair, and it'll be right in front of him so he can click whichever option he wants.
This is a functional prototype of the Voxheart. It has 2 forms of input, that being a yes button and a no button, each of which correlates to an audio output from our speaker.
Our product features include having 2 options, a yes button and a no button. Having 2 options makes our product very simple and easy to use. It's very user-friendly. Next, our product is very scalable. And finally, we do plan to use Bluetooth.
So our competitors within this field are app options, which exist along with products. An example of this is the Proloco 2 Go. And this is a $250 app with a kind of plate that sits on top of it. But as you can see by the picture, there are just a large array of options which are much too complex for many nonverbal individuals because they don't have the complexity of speech. And so to communicate basic ideas is difficult for them because there's so many options which can be overwhelming. The GoTalk Express 32 is a large keyboard, but as you can see, the price of it is $7,000. This is completely inaccessible for the majority of people, and this just makes it ever more difficult to communicate with nonverbal people. Our cost breakdown is that we want our product to be priced between $45 and $60. The material cost of our product is $42.92, which includes the cost of the speakers, the Arduino and hardware, the mounting hardware, the Bluetooth module, and the battery pack.
Next, we're going to dive into our SWOT analysis. The strengths of our product is that we put a lot of thought behind what we're doing. We designed this specifically for Bradley, who is nonverbal in a wheelchair, which many of the other people are faced with the same problem who are nonverbal being in a wheelchair. Our weaknesses of our product is it's not fully developed yet, but we do plan to have it fully developed by the end of the school year. Our opportunity is our product is very marketable. Many people are faced with the issues of being nonverbal and in a wheelchair, and our product can be attached practically anywhere needed. And then our threats is our competitors, but we are not too worried considering the difference in prices between the two different, our product and their products.
The next steps is to try our product and see how it functions, and then adjust the product based on the feedback we receive from Bradley, and then hopefully reduce the cost of production by looking for new inexpensive materials. And then from there, we start distributing our product.
We want to give a voice to the voiceless. We'd like to thank you for your time for listening to our presentation today.
All right, it's time for the 4-minute Q&A. Judges, go ahead.
I can start. This is a yes/no system, if I understood it correctly. So they can respond to questions, but how do they express a need that they have other than being in response to a question someone has asked them? How can they start?
Okay, so that depends a lot on their caregiver. You know, for our end goal is to have a programmable 2-button system, meaning that the caregiver can, you know, maybe use an app on a phone, or maybe use, you know, some sort of system to program these buttons to say whatever they want and whatever they think that, you know, the person, like what they would want to say. So like maybe they want to go to the bathroom or something like that. And so yeah, yes or no is just one of the many options that we eventually plan to have.
Thank you.
I can jump in with a question. Excellent job, guys. I thought that was a very clear, straightforward pain point. And I think you did a really nice job of solving that pain point. Can you walk us through how much you learned from the interviewing process, and were there other pain points that emerged during that pain point, or during that empathy evolution or journey that kind of distracted you?
So I think Kennedy, my team member, would be better for that question.
Okay, so we've had a few pinpoints and problems that occurred. We originally designed this product to go on the bottom of a wheelchair, but then we realized Bradley wouldn't be able to put it on his footrest, and that wasn't going to work. So we designed this product now to go on the armrest, so it would be able to be like out of the way, and we hope to make it so it can like fold down so that it can be out of the way. And then the other part.
Yeah, I think I answered the question.
Yeah, no, that answered the question. Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, I have a question as well, but first of all, a very inspiring problem that you have picked. So a great job picking problem. In terms of the solution, what alternatives did you consider other than this yes/no model?
Okay, so yeah, our initial, well, this idea actually started with the pedal, and we had like a kind of crazy idea of the person using Morse code, where they would you know, they would click the pedal with their foot, and that the Morse code would be translated into actual text and maybe even spoken out loud. And so when we passed that idea throughout the team, we eventually built, you know, ended up having it so where it's like a simple yes or no, so that it's easier for the user to use.
We also learned from that, like using empathy and knowing who we're designing this for, that Morse code would not be the easiest solution for all. And we're trying to make this so that as many people as possible would be able to use it and could understand. So yes and no is a much simpler option.
And did you also look at what is happening in the research space for these kinds of solutions? Did you come across anything that stood out to you? Something?
Yeah. So so we learned that how many different, like how much, like for example, there's an estimated 40% of people with autism that are nonverbal, and we thought that was a pretty major, you know, percentage. And on top of that, there's 31% of children with autism have an IQ of below 70, and what that means is that our product will really resonate with them. If you see other products in the market, they get really complex with, you know, how they use it, different like keyboards and stuff like that. And so our product really resonates with the idea that people with low IQ can use it.
Many of the other products in the market also are very highly priced and not very affordable. And with our product, we're trying to make something that the everyday user, typical person could afford.
Is there any university you found which was doing interesting work in this area?
Can you repeat that question?
Was there any academic institution, a university, a research lab that was doing good work in this space?
So we didn't learn anything about that. There might be, but we wouldn't know anything about that.
Our research that we provided you with the 40% of people with autism being nonverbal and 31% of children having with autism, having an intellectual disability. That all comes from autismspeaks.org.
All right, folks, that is the 4-minute Q&A. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, our second pitch is Elevate from Athens Drive Magnet High School in Raleigh, North Carolina. Elevate makes the world accessible by increasing mobility options for people with disabilities.
Hello, Project Invent. We're Team Elevate. My name's Isaac Wells.
I'm Ryan Markley.
I'm Charlotte Holcomb.
And our other teammate, Patrick Parry, was unable to make filming with us today. Regardless, we're super excited to show you our invention. But first, let's talk about the problem. Our community partner, Sol, is a veteran with a unique set of challenges. His meniscus, a critical component to one's knee, is completely destroyed on one side. In addition to this, his son Libel was born with microcephaly, a rare disorder in which one's skull doesn't fully develop. He was also born with severe scoliosis and cerebral palsy, causing him to grow up in an isolated world, unable to move on his own or experience human interactions. Imagining the helplessness Libel must feel from his burdens, we strove to create something more than an invention. We created Elevate. With the idea of helping Libel experience the beauty of the world in mind, we created a product capable of lifting and transporting him. Elevate would help him surmount life's obstacles and rise above adversity.
Elevate, simply put, is a bed with 4 adjustable legs, all on wheels. The vision behind our design was to create something that would allow us to move around a patient comfortably while allowing them to adapt to the environment. The adjustable nature of our design ensures free movement, and the cushions on top ensure safe and comfortable travel.
Elevate consists of 8 actuators distributed 2 per leg. They can extend both horizontally and vertically. Using these motions, Elevate can adapt to almost any environment in a wide array of different uses. For example, it could straddle a bed by extending horizontally, then lower down to be right next to the patient. The patient could then be gently scooped on, and Elevate would lift, move backwards, and compact again to the desired size. This would allow it to take the function of both lifting and transporting a patient, all with a size under that of a hospital bed. When it's fully compact, Elevate's only 30 inches wide compared to the 38 inches of a hospital bed. So not only is it more maneuverable and compact, but Elevate has far more functions than any competitors. Overall, this is a revolutionary new idea that could sweep the medical world and assist caretakers and hospitals across the nation. Elevate, compared to its competitors, boasts more versatility, mobility, and a more compact size, all for a competitive price. While alternatives can lift or transport an individual, Elevate can seamlessly do both. It takes the best attributes from all opposition and combines them, creating a product ready to shake the market. The total cost of our first prototype was $891.89. The majority of this went to electric actuators, electronics, and raw building materials.
We would use our funding to research and develop our product on a large scale. $250,000 would be enough for toolings and electronics research, which would allow us to construct our invention with professional precision and functionality. With your help, Elevate can redefine movement for those experiencing immobilizing disabilities, transform lives by providing the opportunity to overcome isolation. Together, let's make the world more accessible. The next steps would be getting a wireless remote and improved electronics, a stronger chassis and more durable building materials, and professional quality research and expert input. We would like to thank Miss Luna for leading us through this incredible journey and never losing hope in the face of stacked odds. We would also like to thank John Rankin for selflessly providing us with much needed direction and advice, Soul Saint for partnering with us, offering unending flexibility and sacrificing ceaselessly in the name of compassion, and Stephen Hollingsworth for aiding immeasurably in the construction of our design and turning our dreams into reality. We would also like to say a sincere thank you to NC State Electrical and Computer Engineering for providing us with the expertise and electronic aid needed to bring our vision to life, David Holcomb and Ginger Yu for devoting time, effort, and supplies to our cause in order to create a functioning prototype from a chassis and an idea, and Ryan Wells for working every step of the way in our construction of our model and always having a plan.
Thank you again, Project Invent. We've been Team Elevate, and we're incredibly grateful for your time. Together, let's make the world more accessible.
All right, Q&A time. Go ahead, judges.
I can jump in. First of all, I love your name because there's so many, there's multiple symbolisms in there that I think are fantastic. So I teach this class at Northwestern and our students don't get any money. So I think it's really neat that you were able to get $891. What I would challenge you in my question is, if you had much less money to use for your prototype, what features primarily deliver on the value? So you have adjustable height, cushioning, seat shape, etc. If I told you you could only build a prototype with one or two of those features, which is what my students usually have to do, which one delivers on the value?
So considering the key attribute of Elevate was really the flexibility of the device, we would say that the flexible motions of the legs would be the most critical thing to incorporate into the design. The bed itself isn't fully developed yet. As you can see, there's not really cushioning on the top, but to illustrate the core concepts of our invention, what we really needed to do was showcase how those legs work to really paint a picture in the mind and showcase how this product could evolve.
Great answer. Thank you.
I have a question. This is a really interesting device with lots of potential. Who did you speak to who might be actual customers of this, and what was their feedback? What did they think was strengths and potential weaknesses?
So the main person that we spoke to initially was our community partner, Soul Saint, because his son is fully paralyzed. And our primary market would be those paralyzed either partially or fully and their caretakers. And essentially, the market would be pretty wide for this, considering the previous group was talking about, mute people, and the paralyzed market is a very similar one. And I think that this device would help to assist them quite a bit in a sense where no others could,
Got it. Thank you. Did you also speak to anybody in hospitals, for example, where they have lots of existing hospital beds where this could be something useful to them?
Well, during this time, it was in a large peak of COVID. And so it was really difficult to take our group both to our community partners' house, because we wanted to be respectful, because due to the circumstances, it was very dangerous for us to go and for these purposes, try to figure that out. So we had to work with what we had. And since, we were trying to stay safe as a school and everything, we were not able to visit hospitals, but we were able to, get the information we needed from our community partner, talk to people, and try to figure things out to the best of our ability.
Great, thank you. Nice job.
I love the problem you're trying to solve, and as you said, it can have a really broad impact. I have a couple of questions actually. One, did you estimate how many people in the world could use your product if you had it available today?
We did not do that full estimation, but we could assume, this could be solved very quickly with a Google search if we're being honest, but we do know that the market would be very wide for it.
Sure.
Yeah, we were trying to figure that out for a time, but we realized that based on what feature you wanted to use, since this had such it had two broad functions such as lifting and adjusting, it could be used for people who are paralyzed, people who cognitively can't control that by themselves. And just, there was such a wide range that to represent everybody, we didn't want to put a number on it and try to figure that out. I think that it could just apply to, a larger scale. So that was our hope and that was our intention.
Got it. And my second question is, in the process of building the solution, what was the most difficult part or frustrating part? Where did you have most failures?
So throughout our design process, obviously it all started with an idea. And honestly, that was the easiest part for us. We came up with the idea very quickly and we were very fixated on it while groups were bouncing ideas. For us, the hardest part emerged when it was time to put this into action, because obviously it was a very ambitious plan. This is a large scale robotics project and all of us had very little experience in the field. So the hardest part came when it was time to build the model and fully code it. And we spent countless hours of our free time and sleepless nights working on this, but eventually using our resources, contacting people, finding funds, and then eventually using our skills that we learned throughout this journey, we were able to fully construct and code this project in the given time.
Thanks so much, you guys. That's the end of the Q&A. Great job.
Thank you so much.
All right. Our third pitch is from Boundary, from Athens Drive Magnet High School in Raleigh, North Carolina. Boundary is a portable detection system used to monitor trail use and activity.
Hello, we're Team AAC, introducing our product, Boundary. Our community partner is Kevin Pittman, a forest ranger in North Carolina at Clemens State Forest. The state forest is currently understaffed and cannot be fully monitored. Because of this, there is nothing to stop people from walking off trails and destroying the wildlife. This also causes an influx of erosion in that area. The constant trampling of the ground allows water to carry away more dirt, which destroys the wildlife that Kevin is trying to preserve. We decided to tackle this problem, but we had to consider different factors before creating our product. Since we had to adapt to the forest environment, we had to acknowledge and overcome different obstacles. We had to keep in mind that the forest had no direct access to electricity, including solar power because of the trees shading the area. The forest also had no reliable access to internet, so our product had to be completely offline. Lastly, we had to make sure that our product won't affect the aesthetics of the environment to keep the forest looking like a forest. These obstacles considered, we created Boundary. Boundary works like an overseer of its area. Once someone crosses its line of sight, produced by the ultrasonic sensor, the counter in its code increases by 1 to record that someone has crossed the area. You can also play a custom audio once someone crosses the line, though this is optional per Kevin's request. Boundary runs off of 2D batteries, which allows it to last around 1 month without having to change batteries. It also has an inbuilt radio system so that you can remotely press a button and hear the amount of people who crossed Boundary's line of sight. Still work in progress. Boundary also comes in different colors, including camo to fit the forest. Boundary is both small and includes an adjustable strap so it can fit around any object. This allows Boundary to be very portable and be used in numerous situations, including area security, specifically for rural areas without access to internet, and also garden protection, preventing animals from eating your garden by setting a boundary to play a noise to scare off the animals. However, Boundary cannot physically stop people from wandering off trails, and thus cannot physically stop erosion. But Boundary can detect people and monitor its area to track erosion. All of the components in Boundary may lead you to think that it costs a fortune, but its price might not be what you expect. Boundary costs around $54–66 after tax, not including labor or manufacturing costs. This allows the state to buy multiple of Boundary to put up around the forest, thus helping Kevin with both the understaffing problem and the erosion problem at the same time. But what is a product without competition? Some of our competitors include the Ring doorbell, game cameras, and flag tape. The Ring doorbell, though both very effective in stopping intruders and burglars, is not very portable and requires a source of electricity. Game cameras are portable and reusable, but it was not built for protecting an area. It would also take up a lot of energy because of the camera. Flag tape is both portable and does not require electricity, but it ruins the aesthetic of the forest. It also does a subpar job of preventing people from going off trails. Boundary combines all these factors into one product to not only help Kevin, but also others dealing with security issues as well. Let's protect the world together. Thank you.
All right, let's do this.
All right, Q&A. Take it away, judges.
Yeah, my question is, did you actually have a physical prototype of the device?
We do have a physical prototype, though when adding new ideas to our prototype, we were unable to get it ready for this demo day, and we're very sorry about that. We had it working before, though.
Got it.
My question is actually, I guess, kind of queued up by that, which is this device, it has a lot of constraints that you had to deal with. So what were some of the failures you ran into, including the one that led it to, we couldn't get it to work for today, but sounds like it was working previously, or at least earlier versions of it. What were the failures and what did you learn from them?
The failures that we did encounter were we had before where you're using a microwave sensor, and it turns out that we could not figure out how that works. So we had to quickly pivot to using an ultrasonic sensor that we described in the video. And then some of the other things, adding the counter into the system and also adding the radio system, we're trying to figure out and trying to put in, and that's why it wasn't able to be ready for today.
Great job, guys. I think this is obviously a really large problem that's growing. Was there any inspiration you could pull from other analogies? And when I say analogies, I mean, were there other industries you could look at that had similar challenges, or were there other situations that were similar where you could kind of steal their ideas or their solutions?
Corey?
I really can't think of any other industry that had any other analogy to what we had. Constraints, we did have a lot of those, however. So we had to make a lot of things optional. We had to make it aesthetically pleasing. We weren't allowed to use a camera per Kevin's request. We couldn't make it look like a game cam, also per Kevin's request. So we had to change our entire design multiple times to fit in all these requests. And we had to make sure we had to use different ideas than what we had actually planned.
Was that frustrating, or did you guys keep building on what you learned? And was it pretty frustrating?
It was frustrating. It was definitely frustrating. It was hard to pull ideas because of those constraints. So we had to basically go mostly off our own heads.
Okay.
Did you consider alternatives to using a battery so you can reduce the maintenance?
Did you consider any options for using battery other than battery?
We can't really use anything other than batteries because it's supposed to be in like a remote area, like in a forest or something, where you have to have like a portable source of electricity, so you can't really like plug it in anywhere. So yeah, battery was probably the best thing.
And also solar power, as we said in the video, was not an option because of the foliage from the trees.
And how much range would you need for each device to cover, if you wanted to cover, let's say, a reasonable area that someone is trying to monitor?
So the range can vary. It really depends what you want it to be. Eventually, we intend on adding some sort of, or actually, we don't really need to. So basically, it has a very far range, which is predetermined in the code. And we can set this to a very large distance so we can cover a large amount of area. So you probably wouldn't need too many unless you have a very serious problem, which in that case, you would probably need something much more than this.
All right, folks, thanks so much. That's the end of the Q&A for this session.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right. Our fourth pitch is Don't Forget Me from North Country Union High School in Newport, Vermont. Don't Forget Me reduces the possibility that a student with mobility issues will leave her cane behind.
Our community partner is Emerson Royer. She has vanishing white matter disease, which affects how she walks. And we chose her because she is a longtime friend of ours. And we've seen her struggling with some pretty significant things in the past decade. And we would like to help her and to alleviate some of that struggle.
What are some daily struggles that you face?
I face difficulty in walking, and I also face not be able to do like PE. I use my walker so that I don't have to depend on people helping me unless I'm in dance, because it's hard to like do turns and stuff in dance with the walker because I don't have that movability in my walker to do all the movements.
And then in dance, what do you use?
A cane. So I have a cane at home as well that I use, but the cane at home I tend to forget a lot. Like, it's right by my desk, which is right by my door in my bedroom, and it's hard to remember the cane for some reason.
Our idea was to create a cane that will beep once she leaves the room or gets within a certain distance of it, so that she doesn't leave it and doesn't have to rely on other tools.
Here we have two microbits. One of the microbits is going to be constantly sending out a signal to the second microbit. That signal is going to be calculated into a number. If that number gets low enough, then it'll ring both microbits. This noise is used to help notify the user if they leave their cane behind.
I like the idea of the sound because when it goes off, then I know I forget something. Maybe no design, because when cane's black on stage, and I feel like it's easier if it doesn't have anything on it. Could they put like a pause button on it, like a stop button?
Originally, we had numerous ideas like apps and GPS. We narrowed them down and simplified them in our project to fit the crucial needs better.
Although Apple AirTag has a similar function to our product, it relies on outside technology in order to work. Our cane is an independent technology that is not reliant on Apple products. It also does not need to be updated and requires very little power, with 2 AA batteries lasting about 2 months. Unlike GPS canes, ours is also very low cost. Our cane also attempts, unlike most smart canes, to prevent the problem from happening by alerting the user before they leave the area through an auditory cue, as opposed to giving them the location after they've already lost it. One of our next steps is to prototype foot attachments for the cane. Having a variety of attachments would make it so that the cane would be more flexible in its function, such as being able to better assist her in dancing or moving in an icy environment. We would begin by creating 3D printed models and testing their impact on the functionality of the cane. We would also want to integrate the microbit into the cane so it is less easily damaged or removed from the product.
And do you have like a career you want to have?
Yes. The career I would want to have is to make my own, open my own craft store and raise money for these different awarenesses.
Yeah, I like that.
All right, it's time for Q&A. Go ahead, judges.
I can jump in. Great job, guys. That was a really great way to show empathy by incorporating some of her perspectives and feelings and insights. Did you guys expand on finding other uses for this? Are there other applications that can make your market bigger?
So our design is focused on helping people with like memory problems. So it could also be applied to people with head trauma, past head trauma, or other mental disabilities that would have them forgetting things often. And this would help prevent them from losing their cane and help them remember it. It can also be applied to other objects. We use the cane because of Emerson and how she described her struggles, but it could also be applied to anything you want, anything that's portable that you might lose.
Does that change how you guys are going to design this? Because at the end of the video, you talked about building or incorporating it inside the cane, which then obviously limits where you can place that. Is that one component that you need to think through if you do want to make this usable on other objects?
We actually I have the cane here. Right now it's attached on a keychain, and the microbit is on a keychain, and it's attached to the bag, and then there's another keychain that's attached to the cane. So it can be easily moved from bag to bag or from object to object.
Can I get a copy for my keys? That would be wonderful. I'm always losing my keys.
I'd like to ask a question about going through this. What part of this process was the most challenging?
So the most challenging problem that we faced, we mainly focused on design thinking of how to actually incorporate the cane, incorporate the microbit into the cane the best, so that it's usable and functional and looks okay, because she's using it for dance. So she wants it to look okay. So we decided at first that we were going to use e-textiles on it, and then she said that would not be as pleasant to look at as just a black cane. But we did not want it to be too bulky. We didn't want it to look bad. So we made sure to keep it slim with how we changed the actual design of the cane.
Thank you.
Did you talk to any other users, potential users?
Can you repeat that?
For the feedback, did you only talk to one person, or did you talk to more than one?
We only talked to one person. We only talked to Emerson Royer. Yes.
Okay.
What do you think your biggest learning, where did your biggest learning come from in terms of having to change that prototype? What was kind of the biggest takeaway for you in terms of talking to her and then going back and building and then talking to her?
Yeah, one of those would probably have to be the aspect of location. Originally, we were thinking, GPS, but then we found that it was more suitable for us to use the microbits, not only because they're can be less bulky and also more affordable in some cases, and it just felt got our needs better. So I don't know if that answers the question.
Absolutely.
All right, great job, you guys. Moving on.
We also decided that having it be an independent device would be helpful, because of not everybody who we are targeting this device towards will have a phone or an outward source of being able to connect with the cane. So our product is just 2 microbits instead of having it be software.
Great. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right. Our 5th pitch is Decontamination Station from Applied Technology High School in Paramus, New Jersey. Decontamination Station provides a way for firefighters to remove harmful materials and carcinogens from their boots.
Hello, and thank you for meeting with us today. We are Decontamination Station. I am Salvatore here with Grace. These are our community partners, Mr. Adam Brenner and Mr. Fred Gillespie. Both Mr. Brenner and Mr. Gillespie are fire department chiefs in their well-respected areas. While Mr. Brenner's department works more with automotive accidents, Mr. Gillespie's department tends to respond more to house fires and medical incidents. A common struggle for both partners is having to be conscious of their contaminants they are spreading at the scene. With this challenge in mind, we reached our community partners to grasp a better idea to meet their needs to limit toxins.
Our community partners have expressed their concern for limiting chemical spread by saying, there's a chemical in our shoes called PFOS, perfluorooctane sulfonic acid, and it's basically a chemical called a forever chemical, and it's supposed to be a moisture barrier, preventing gear from getting all soaked from sweat and everything. It's unfortunately still around and doing a lot of damage. Shoes and boots treads of different sizes and shapes. We do seem to find ourselves stepping in a lot of things on the fire ground, from animal or human waste to ash and soot, chemicals and biohazardous materials. It is important for our team to create an idea that is tailored to the needs and desires of both partners, which is why we have decided to create the Decontamination Station. In order to limit the spread of toxins like soot and other residue from the fire, the Decontamination Station is a machine that firefighters can use to clean their boots with on site once they finish. This prevents tracking harmful chemicals into unnecessary areas. Here is a brief demonstration. In the demonstration, a garden hose is connected to a solenoid valve that regulates water flow to the PVC pipes. The water gets passed onto the large sprinkler and a smaller gold one on the side to shower the boot. This system can be turned on manually when the user holds down on the button located at the top of the grab handle for firefighters to place their hand and keep their balance. This can also be turned on automatically with a sensor depending on the user's preference. In addition to this, there is a box on the side of the device that contains an Arduino used to turn the water on the manual setting, as well as the flash of the red, green, and blue lights that can switch manual and automatic through a toggle switch.
After creating this, we reached out to both our community partners, and Chief Gillespie responded with the following, quote, I think the decontamination of our boots is a great idea. The focus on cleaning our boots are something less thought about when we could be spreading contaminants back to the apparatus, the fire station, and anyone else we respond to. When speaking to Mr. Brenner and Mr. Gillespie together on Zoom, both chiefs expressed concerns that were taken into consideration when building the prototype. The guarantee of clean water and then properly disposing of the water was their top priorities. With this in mind, we adjusted our vision of the prototype. In the prototype, the water is sourced from the apparatus, and if the user chooses to, an additional source of cleaning supplies can be added through a drip to ensure clean water. This was a major pivot point in our design since it revolved around the best way to protect our community partners from unnecessary damage. From this, we essentially altered the entire design. This crucial suggestion from our community partners inspired us to find safer ways to implement our idea. In addition to this, users are allowed to dispose of the water in a way they believe is safest for their community. This idea helps cut down the risk of contamination since we will not reuse potentially contaminated water if the filter did not work properly. Each community is different. Allowing users to decide what the safest way would be for their community would be the most beneficial. A potential option for some communities who have a sewer system is put there, but if that's not an option, consider getting the water treated professionally.
You might be aware that there are similar products on the market. However, the decontamination stands out for a number of reasons. In order to operate the machine correctly, the decontamination station does not require any outside help from another person, as it can be fully automated, making it super convenient and accessible, unlike the TFT Decon Pack and the Firefighter Decon. The decontamination station only requires the push of a button. In addition to this, the cleaning solution used in our product is going to be decided by the user. Mr. Brenner and Mr. Gillespie like to mix water with dish soap. However, after looking into more research, other departments like to use PPE cleaners or saddle soap. Allowing the user to choose what they believe is most effective is more valuable than choosing for them, because users will have the ability to further customize the product to their liking. Future steps our group is looking to take is by adjusting our prototype by adding different angles of water for the boot to be clean to improve efficiency, along with being more compatible with different boots, along with adding wheels to improve usability. Our team is also looking for ways to make the decontamination station foldable and more compact through CAD softwares to save space in our fire apparatus. Although most firefighters tend to lean away from innovation, the decontamination station is extremely easy to use and made to make their lives simpler as well as safer. On behalf of my team and we would like to thank you for your time and conclude this presentation.
All right, judges, go ahead with your Q&A.
Did you find that spraying of the water, any feedback on whether spraying of the water, even if it has chemicals, was sufficient? I was wondering if like anyone had suggested some kind of ability to scrub the boot as well. Any feedback on that? Like, is just spraying water, did they comment on that?
Hi, before I answer, I would just like to thank you for the opportunity. But we have like spoke to our community partners versus like spraying the boot or scrubbing it, or also in terms of what to use, like versus like a jet or a brush. And our community partners have expressed no preference for either, leaving it entirely up to us. And we chose to like essentially shower the boot for a better chance of to spread the water and usability.
Okay, thank you.
When you look at all the features that you guys outlined, one of them being the ability to use it as a single individual standing there without any help from others, that sounds like that's one of the differentiators that you outlined. Does that tie to what your community partners expressed as one of the key pain points?
I would like to pass this question to Salvatore.
So our community partners, a thing we noticed is they describe their routine, like what they do after calls. A thing we noticed that sometimes they would have a call after call, and with repeated that stuff gets difficult. So we figured if it only requires one person, it saves time, and also another person can be ready to respond or get ready for the next call.
Was there a need to help them understand how effective the solution was? How would you measure effectiveness of your solution? How do you know that it has actually worked this clean?
I would like to pass this to Salvatore as well.
Can you just repeat that? It cut out.
Yeah, my question is, how do you know that the boot has actually been cleaned?
Well, the thing about the firefighter community is that they're very open on social media platforms like YouTube to give out solutions. And we looked at different channels throughout from different fire departments in the country. And we noticed that some just like hose them down quickly and some use different methods. So we wanted to find a solution that like kind of combines them all to find what is most effective.
Okay. And you worked on a design where someone could clean their boots just by themselves without requiring anyone else. But did you also see a need for cleaning a large number of boots at the same time? You know, say you have 10, or sometimes teams can be very big. Do they have to just keep waiting one after the other, or could you think of a solution that can scale to larger number of people?
At the moment, our prototype is limited to one person at a time. However, that is something we would like to work on in the future by maybe making a bigger one that could do multiple boots at a time. However, it is not in our prototype at the moment.
And if you were to reduce the cost of your solution significantly, what feature would you remove?
That is a difficult question because we view many of our features as very valuable, especially the ability to automate and do manually. However, personally, I think we would remove the grab handle we have because as we are only putting one foot in at a time, it is easy to balance. However, if the firefighter does need it, it is an option for them. But I would say we would remove that.
Have you thought about other applications for this type of solution? Are there other places or people that would be interested in it?
Yes, we strongly believe that our device has the capability to affect beyond just the firefighting community, because the ultimate purpose of the station is to limit the tracking into unnecessary areas, so it can be used in like a variety of fields. Places like power plants or hospitals, anywhere you essentially need to be cleaned quickly, or even stuff like leisure, such as like paintball.
All right, folks, that is the end of the 4-minute Q&A. Great job. All right. Our sixth pitch is Heat Seek from Applied Technology High School in Paramus, New Jersey. Heat Seek is a remote controlled rover that can be operated remotely over difficult terrain to communicate, deliver supplies to, and rescue those in distress or need.
We are Team Heat Seek from Applied Technology High School. My name is Thomas Bolton.
I'm Ibrahim Ahmed.
I'm Jake Gombas.
And I'm Zachary Narizzi. Hello, this is Zach from the future, and I'd like to mention that I will be putting snippets of information that we forgot to mention in the meeting.
What are ice rescues? Ice rescues are a major issue that many different citizens face in many northern states, like the Northeast, Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania. All these states have many different ice rescues each year. And one of the major issues that is faced during these ice rescues are when police officers or firefighters have to go out onto the ice and end up falling through. There needs to be a better way victims can be saved from ice rescues without sending a police officer or firefighter into harm's way. That's why we decided to come up with our project, our Heat Seek rover. How will our device work? Our device will work in 3 simple steps. The first step is attach, where a firefighter will attach the rover to himself and set up the rover. They will attach it to themselves using a snap cord. The second step is deploy, which is deploying the rover out onto the ice. The third step is retrieve, which is when the firefighter will pull the rover and the victim out of the water back onto safe land.
Another thing that I'd like to mention is that our helper gave us the idea of using the firefighters' manpower to pull in the rover and bring the person out of the water.
How will our device operate? Our device will operate using our tread features. We decided to use treads for our rover because it would be much more functional than using mirrors on ice. We tested out our treads on many different types of terrain, and we found that it is very stable and it has a very good grip on slippery surfaces.
As seen in the drawing of the rover, there is a floating device on top. This was created so that if the rover were to ever fall into the water, it would float towards any other surface of ice and use the treads to get back out. What makes your design special? It's very autonomous. The rover was able to be controlled by another person outside of the area of rescue. This is very important because the lives of a person rescuing another is also very important in that same situation. It is very important for the firefighters to not go out on the ice because, one, it can be very fragile. You don't need 2 people to be rescued. Another thing that I forgot to talk about in the meeting was that our design is nowhere on the market. This is a very good thing because firefighters and any other rescuers out there have a chance, finally, to not risk any more lives in their field of work.
These are some images of our prototype, or top images, or early stages with our tread feature, and our later images show our final prototype, which has a FPV camera and motors attached to help power all treads.
Thomas did mention the FPV camera in the front of our rover. We also plan to have a thermal camera or a thermal camera setting to find the person in the ice a lot easier.
This is our first test of our rover. So in this video, we see our rover going down a hallway, and we see the first person view camera set up to it. So you're seeing what the rover is, you're seeing on the rover's level what you're going towards. You also have a ball down there so you can see the point of reference of where you are with the rover. This makes it so it's much easier to not crash into anything and things like that. Thank you for your time. We are now open to asking any questions.
How will our design compete in the market? While there are many different types of ice rescue devices, these, as you can see here, these are all manual, meaning they need to be manned by a person that could endanger their lives on the ice. Meanwhile, our device is autonomous and, as said before, can be operated on land by another person. So our device reduces risk of human life, and also our device can be used for also non-contact rescues.
All right, Q&A time. Go ahead, judges.
What are some other uses for this? You talked about ice rescues, but I remember when you started off, you were talking about just general rescue scenarios where the terrain is difficult or dangerous. Were there other ones you explored aside from the ice rescue scenario?
Some of the main other options of rescue that we saw was just search and rescue because of the thermal camera. I guess, not I guess, but it would be easier to see just any search and rescue situation that can either be like in forest territory or in very rocky or mountainous terrain.
Okay, got it.
So you did an excellent job of showing us how this works in the hallway. How do you guys plan to test this in a real environment where you're actually tackling ice and elements and things like that?
We did test this during the winter, so there was a lot of ice and snow on the ground while we were testing. We tested uphill where the snow was apparent, and it functioned very well. We just didn't get any video footage of that.
Okay.
What were some of the challenges that you faced in making it work?
Some of the challenges were figuring out whether wheels or treads were much better, or which one was a better option. Treads seemed to be the better option because wheels slipped a lot more, and the treads with the rougher terrain on the rotating forward helped a lot on the terrain.
Who do you think is the ultimate buyer of this? Is it cities that are purchasing all of their rescue workers? Who do you think you would actually have to sell this to?
Mainly cities and states, because a lot of states and cities, or like police stations and fire stations as well, because there are a lot of problems with search and rescue, because usually the population of the city, the people in the city, have to participate in search and rescue, while there can be a lot less people using their time and effort with the rovers out on the field.
And what do you consider as the most important feature that has to work well for it to operate well in real world?
I'd like to give this question to Thomas Carlton.
Well, the most important feature of our device, I believe, has to be our tread and motor system, because without the system and without its ability to be attached to the firefighter, you risk many more complications out on the ice than you would have if it was just plain without anything like that. Zach, would you like to continue?
Yeah, like Thomas Carlton was saying, there is the rope mechanism that uses the firefighter's manpower all the way away from the ice, so he does not risk his own safety in the field of work. That is one of the main functions. Another main function that is very helpful and very useful is the thermal camera that we plan to use. The thermal camera would help immensely in the field of rescue, mainly because it would show the body temperatures of the person, seeing how important or how urgent the situation really is.
All right, thanks everyone. That's the end of this Q&A session.
Thank you, good job.
Now, our final pitch from Dex, New Trier Township High School in Winnetka, Illinois. Dex helps people with limited hand dexterity reach and grasp the things they need.
Hello, we are Team Dex from New Trier High School. I'm Aiden Lee.
I'm Devin Fleischman Amon.
I'm Riley Kamen. About Shelly Luz. Shelly is a quadriplegic, which means she has limited mobility in all four limbs. Shelly has good bicep strength and arm mobility, but limited use of her hands. Through our conversations, we identified reaching and grabbing objects was a frequent challenge for her. Shelly taught us that grabbing devices currently available require hand dexterity that quadriplegics lack. We set out to invent a solution.
Problem to solve. Our invention helps users with limited hand dexterity have an easier time completing their daily tasks. Most importantly, the task of picking up items off the floor, counters, and high places.
Some products already on the market are the grabbers that are seen on a typical day-to-day basis, but as mentioned before, they are ones that quadriplegics cannot operate. One of the inventions that tried to solve this are the Quad Tools Reacher, which involved the movement of the wrist to grab objects. Within the hardware of Dex, there are a series of user inputs and hardware inputs that determine the position of the grabber. First is the user-operated push button, which starts the closing sequence of the grabber. Next is the sensor that is attached to the endpoint of the grabber to determine if an object is being detected. If an object is detected and the user button is on, the grabber will remain in the object hold position until the user presses the button again, resulting in the motors to start the opening sequence. The outputs for every input is through the two motors that control each arm grabber. Introducing Dex. This is our final prototype of Dex. There is a user-friendly handle with a battery pack, Arduino, and breadboard mounted on the grabber. At the ends of the invention are the grabber arms mounted on the top of the two motors that are responsible for the actual grabbing of objects. Who will this invention impact?
Anyone with limited mobility in their hands to be able to easily grab things. Elderly citizens that have restricted movement in their limbs. Anyone that possesses bad cases of arthritis.
The next steps. The major points in which we believe Dex can improve are within the amount of weight that can be held and overall handle support. Improvements in these two areas will allow Dex to be more versatile and user-friendly, as currently we are only able to pick up light to medium weight objects.
All righty. Q&A session. Go ahead, judges.
I have a question. What was the best way for you guys to figure out which features needed to rise to the top?
Yeah, so really in our creation of the tool, the Arduino portion and the motors were really our main two focuses. Originally, we were going to try to have a two-button system so the user could close the object when they deemed it necessary, but we did that sensor later in the prototype process. So yeah, I'd say the motor and the Arduino are probably the two most important.
How did you figure that out? Was it from did you do ethnography where you watched the person that you were trying to help? Did you talk to them? What informed you the most effective way?
Probably just looking at other tools on the market, just because we knew that obviously the most important is the actual motor so they can grab an object. And I think from that, we just continued on with our prototype process.
Question for you. Like all the other ones, this was great. Love seeing it in action too. I can absolutely see how useful this can be for people. What was the thing that you had to learn that you knew the least about that was required for you to complete this?
So actually, all three of us have never had experience with any hardware or software development in itself. So we really were going from absolutely zero knowledge in coding to making a whole project and wiring process. So yeah, it's a steep learning curve, but it was worth it.
How did you go about learning it? Was it just curious? What were the mechanisms to teach yourself? What were the resources?
Yeah, so personally, I can speak for me. I used the Arduino software interface, how it taught you separate programs. Then I also looked up different YouTube videos on push button mechanics.
Great, thank you.
Very valuable solution you are suggesting there. For your product, what might be the most difficult thing for users to use when they use it?
I think the most difficult part for our entire prototype has been how the user will actually manage to hold and grab the object, the grabber itself, and maintain that strength to hold it up. And the weight. Yeah, and the weight for sure, because it does get a bit top heavy sometimes, and we tried to balance that out by having the battery pack and the Arduino in the back of it, so we can have the motors in the front of it, so there's a bit of weight balance. But I'd say those two things, yeah.
What do you think the biggest substitute is today for these handles? So you showed us some of the competitors, but what other mechanisms do people use to overcome arthritis or being able to grab things if they're not able to use those muscles?
Yeah, so this is actually something that came up when we talked to our community partner, Mrs. Luce. Our original concept was going to be something where you could Velcro it onto your arm or something like that. But I think the main option would be maybe something you stick your arm in and it grasps on automatically, because the big concern she raised with that was actually attaching those Velcro straps. She can't do that grabbing motion. So honestly, it makes a semi-easy task even harder.
All right, folks, that is the end of the Q&A. Thanks so much.
Good job.
Yeah. Great job, everyone.
Indeed. It wraps up our pitches. Congratulations to all our brilliant student teams and the amazing support networks of teachers, mentors, and family. Our panelists will now head off to another room where they'll have time to deliberate and decide on our 4 awards. And the rest of us are now in for an incredible treat with our keynote speaker, followed by some highlights of this year from each of our teams. Our keynote is Chi Wogu. Chi is the CEO and founder of GameFlow. Chi began GameFlow wanting to increase access to essential skills in STEAM, that's science, technology, engineering, arts, and math, and bridge the digital divide with a focus on preteens and teenagers. She has also served as an adjunct professor at the Keenan Flagler Business School. He's passionate about sports, providing access to education and mentoring, and product innovation. Please welcome Chi. The floor is all yours. T, are you with us?
And I think I'm supposed to be in the deliberation room, but not sure how to get there.
Oh, there is a link in the email that you were sent with the judge's rubric.
Okay.
Great. All right, folks. I'm not sure if T is with us.
Yes, I am.
Hey, there you are. Great.
Yeah.
It is all yours.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Let me go ahead and pop up my slides. I was listening while doing some work in the background. You guys did amazing. I'm really blown away by the level of poise you all showed and the level of work you put in. So congrats to you all. It's really, really amazing. So let me get my slideshow going here. My name is Chi Wogu, and I am the CEO and founder of GameFlow. GameFlow is a gaming company based in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. And our mission is to bring communities together through culturally relevant games. And what does that mean? That means games which we can all see ourselves in. And so it's really a cool company to run. This is my first time making a game. And so it's lots of learning, lots of talking to different folks, lots of reading books and things like that. And so I will eventually get to that. But for now, I am going to talk a bit about my playbook for when life happens. When life happens. And I think as you all have worked through your various projects, you probably run into obstacles, things which did not go as planned. And that's always going to happen in life. Life is always going to throw you a curveball, whether it be professionally, personal life, but I have found that there are a few things which have helped me to really navigate when life happens and things go crazy. So when life happens, you have to adapt, you have to adjust. That's number one. People who fail to adjust are people who get left behind. And you all have done a good job of showing ways in which you can innovate and build a project, right, based on the need. And so anytime there's a need, people have to adapt and create something which will fill that need. But to me, adapting is not enough. I think you have to adapt and also thrive. You have to be someone who's going to flourish and go above and beyond what's expected, right? So I always say if doing average was what we all did, we will all not be here today, because it took lots of folks saying, the light bulb, I've tried so many times, right? Let me keep trying and maybe make a better light bulb, maybe make a better car, make a better plane, right? People have always adapted and done above and beyond to thrive. And so here are a few lessons from my life, a few stories from my life. Please use the chat. I love the chat feature. To adapt and thrive, you have to be a star in your role. You have to be a star in your role. And here is a picture of me back in high school, okay? It's my high school yearbook. I went to a boarding school in Connecticut, a school called Choate Rosemary Hall. I'm a big sports fan. I played football, basketball, baseball. And here's a picture of me in my high school yearbook. The top picture is me grabbing a rebound and me watching a rebound. And the bottom picture is me with my team. Before I got to this point, though, there's a long story before that. And that story kind of begins for me in 8th grade. In 8th grade, I had a really, really bad knee injury playing football. Tore my ACL, tore my MCL, knee got dislocated. It was a huge mess. But unfortunately, my mom and dad, who have 7 kids, could not afford to have me get knee surgery. And so I had to kind of rehab naturally. I missed school for like 6 months. I had a cane, I had crutches, I got called Grandpa Chi, I got called all kinds of names. And so I kind of went through 8th grade with a pretty, really, I guess, physically and also emotionally difficult time for myself. I went to high school the year after and went to try out for the basketball team, and I got cut from JV. I got cut from JV. Imagine me, right? I'm from New York City. I'm from the Bronx. A kid from New York City, right, who loves basketball. I come and I get cut from JV, and I got placed on the freshman team. I think for me, I quickly learned that, you know what, it is where it is, right? I got cut from JV, and as opposed to sulking, I embraced that my job was to be a great teammate, not just for my freshman team, but for the JV team and for the varsity team, right? And so I kind of became a guy who was all about the basketball program. So I would come and do things like watch every JV basketball game and cheer for them, right? And go to the women's games, the girls' games, and cheer for the girls as well. I used to dress up and go to varsity games and be a mascot, right, my freshman year. So I became a great teammate. And for me, being a great teammate led to me making JV my sophomore year. I made the varsity basketball team my junior year. And by my senior year, I led the team to our first playoff berth in 20 years. It was a great season for us. We connected as a team, we clicked. We weren't the most talented team, but we were connected in a family because people like me really embrace being a great teammate. I embrace being a star in my role. And because of that, my knee injury was still slowed me down. I wasn't as quick. I couldn't jump as high, but I still accomplished my goals of making the varsity basketball team and being a great teammate. So to adapt and thrive, you have to be a star in your role. That's lesson number one. Lesson number two is to adapt and thrive, you have to create within your passion. Create within your passion. So here's a picture of me in 2015. In 2015, I led the MBA media and broadcast team for my startup company. And it was a job in which I got to produce a TV show about basketball and sports. I got to be on the show as a talent, right? I also got to bring in friends and build a really, really great company with people who I got to meet in the past. But to get here, it took me really understanding what my passion was and embracing that passion. And that began in 2008. So real quick, in 2008, what big event happened? Okay, tell me real quick in the chat if you guys can. In 2008, what big event happened? Anybody? 2008, I know it's going back a while. It's kind of jogging people's memories. Yeah, there it is. Yep, the recession. Yeah, everyone remembers it. Well, the election too. Yes, that was the election. But in 2008, the big event was the global financial crisis. And for me, in high school, was very intentional about saying that I was going to be an investment banker. Once again, I came from a family of 7 kids. My mom was the only one making money as a nurse. And so for me, I was trying to really pursue the highest paying career possible. And that was investment banking. And so I was actually the first investment banking intern from high school at JP Morgan when I was a senior in high school. And I went to my freshman year in college, I was doing investment banking. And then here comes sophomore year, and then boom, here comes that big old global financial crisis. And every single bank was not trying to hire interns that summer. So JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, you name it, they were like, nope, we can't hire anybody because we are on the brink of collapse. And so I actually went and found a different internship that summer. And I found a job at Bloomberg LP. So Bloomberg LP is essentially a financial data company. And they gave all the banks, the stock traders information, which they use to trade stocks and buy things, right? So it's really like this big machine which feeds people data. So I worked for them, and it wasn't what I was trying to do, but I was still a good teammate. I still got my work done, but also told people about who I was. I talked about my love for sports, my love for basketball. And so in July more of my teammates came by and said, "Hey, Chi, I have an idea to take the Bloomberg LP financial tools and apply it to sports and help baseball teams and basketball teams understand how to use their data better." He's like, "Chi, I know you love sports. Can you please help me get the idea passed by the Bloomberg LP board and have us get funding for it?" And I said, "Yeah, I'll do that. I'll happily join you and help you launch a sports department from a company, right? Knowing that I love sports." And so I spent all my time for the next month or so helping him pitch the idea to the Bloomberg LP board. The idea got passed. He got funding to launch the sports department at Bloomberg LP. And then fast forward to 2012, I came back and joined the company 4 years later, as their CFO. But before that point, I had worked in banking, right? I had learned lots of skills around finance and accounting and knowing how to work with large data sets. And so I came in 2012 as the CFO, and I told him, if I come in, I also want to be a basketball analyst. I also want to work within what I love, being basketball, and write about basketball and talk about basketball. And so over time, over 2-3 years, I did half basketball stuff, half CFO stuff, but I built my name as a basketball analyst. In 2013, 2014, I watched every single NBA game. Every single game, which is absolute madness looking back on it now. I'll be at work with 3 TV screens on, watching 2 games at one, weekends watching games all day long. But for me, I felt like I had to do something which would be innovative. And based on me watching every game that season, I wrote this article, which became the most viewed article in our company history and really made me a huge name in the basketball world for what I wrote about that season. So the hard work had to be done, but me taking that work and saying, "No, what can I produce with this, which will get lots of eyeballs, which will help me grow my name?" That was innovation. And from that, I became a well-known name on TV for being a basketball analyst. I got to bring in new people to my team and really got to work within my passion, right? My passion is always going to be sports and basketball. And so that brings me to my last theme, adapt and thrive. And to do so, you have to focus on what you can control. Focus on what you can control. And I think this past 2 years, right, with COVID, we've seen that things have been just sometimes uncontrollable. We can't control how a virus spreads. We can't control what new thing comes in, but we can control how we go about our days, how we go about keeping our family safe, right? We control those things. And so for me, with my company, we had big plans to launch our first game in 2020. We had spent 2 years doing research, doing customer discovery, doing workshops in schools, after school programs, talk to parents, teachers, talk to everyone, right? And really refined our idea around making a really cool basketball card game. A game which is old school in that most times people, especially young people, spend all their time on their screens. And so for us, making a tabletop game, which is very engaging, was part of us trying to create a really culturally relevant game, which we knew could be used in different ways, like helping people understand probability or things around strategy, or knowing how to talk about diversity, right? Our cards, we have half men, half women from all around the world. So you can do a whole class of geography by looking at where our players come from. So for us, we were trying to build a really cool game which could be used to help out the Boys and Girls Club, help a charter school, help a basketball program in high school, right? But the pandemic hit. And so we had to put a pause on doing our Kickstarter campaign. For those who don't know, Kickstarter is a crowdfunding platform where people who are trying to launch something, it could be a game, it could be a product like you guys have done, right? People raise money on Kickstarter to fund them actually developing the idea. So for us, before we actually went to print out the physical cards, we raised money to pay for production. And so during the year of 2020, we had to pause our Kickstarter, but we spent that time working on our design for the game. So we worked on our logo a bit more. We worked on the cards and how things looked. We worked on trying to build out our community partner model. For us, we are very big on how can we help the helpers? How can we help people doing great work out there by giving them a tool which will help them engage people? And so we went from having 2 to having 9 community partners during 2020. People like a nonprofit called Hoops for Hope. It's a group in South Africa and Zimbabwe, and they use basketball to engage young people around things like mental health and knowing how to deal with conflict, which is exactly what we want to do, but we're helping them do their job. And so we built that out during COVID. And because of that work we did, right, the work we focused on what we could control, once we did our Kickstarter in April 2021, we set our goal at raising $20,000 in 30 days. A bunch of folks said, oh, that's too high. It's your first game, do like 5,000, do 10,000. We said we're doing 20,000. And because of the work we did with our community building and design, we hit our 20,000 goal in 24 hours. We blew away expectations because we spent that time working on what we could control, and we didn't get bogged down by COVID and what could happen with X, Y, and Z, right? Those things will happen no matter what. We can't control what things are in China being shipped to us, right? We can't control things being delayed. And so if you're going to adapt and thrive, you have to focus on what you can control. And so I definitely want to leave time for Q&A, but to summarize, right, my playbook for when life happens is this one phrase, adapt and thrive. And to adapt and thrive, you have to be a star in your role. You have to create within your passion, and you have to focus on what you can control, right? Because life is more about how you react to things than what happens to you. Your reaction, how you bounce back to adversity, is what determines who you are as a human being. And you all have shown that you guys can do amazing things. I'm really proud of the work you've done. So I would love some questions. If you guys have any questions about any part of my life, any part of my story, I can provide more detail, but I don't want to just talk to you all. I want to hear from you as well and have you ask me questions. Thanks so much.
Students and teachers, at this time, feel free to just come off mute with questions, and we'll just add your spotlight in so that she can see you. But feel free to just come off mute with any questions you might have.
Hi, thank you so much for sharing. We were curious about what your future plans are in terms of where you're headed.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for that question, Team Elevate. So our future plans is really based around community, right? And I think we're seeing lots of companies today, especially around like things like NFTs. I think people try to build a product and then hope that the community will come afterwards. We believe in you build a community, and then from that point you build on top of that. And so for us, we're trying to really build people who are loyal to our card game by having like pickup tournaments, right? Same way people have gotten really hooked on Pokemon, hooked on Magic the Gathering by going to live events. We want to really have a bunch of live events, but also we want to make our game virtual and kind of have a bit more scale. So yeah, for us is a focus on how do we build our community, right? How do we make sure our users, our customers, right, that we create a feedback loop. We can kind of understand what things they like, what things they want, and kind of build based on making them happy. That's the key to a business, making your customers and your users happy.
Okay. Thank you so much. I think that's awesome how you value community in that way. It's definitely something to admire. And I mean, as far as I know, we're all fans of card games, so we think that's really cool. And we think it's awesome that you're local. We're here in Cary, so can't say I'm a UNC fan, but you know, that's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing.
Of course, my pleasure. And go Cary. I was actually at Cary Academy a few weeks ago, so but yeah, I'm glad you guys are big card game fans, and definitely check out the game.
Hi, I have a question.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Team Strong here, and you have an amazing life story, and I'm curious if like you were able to meet any NBA players.
Oh yeah, all the time, man. And I think that's the fun part of my job is that like I've gotten to meet lots of cool people like Steph Curry, who I'm a huge fan of. I was an NBA All-Star in 2020, and for me, being a huge Kobe Bryant fan, it was just cool to be there and kind of like talk to folks after Kobe passed away and just be around those circles. But yes, I've gotten to meet tons of players. I've gone tons of games, and I'm actually more of a fan of watching high school and college basketball than watching NBA basketball. So I feel like NBA plays a bit too entitled, but I have met a few guys, but the most famous being Steph Curry, for sure.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I also have a question from Team Strong. Do you have a favorite NBA player?
I do have a favorite player. My favorite player has to be Giannis, because Giannis, like me, is of Nigerian descent. His family is from Nigeria, but he grew up in Greece, or he was born in Greece. He's my favorite player. And then besides him, I'm also a big, like I mentioned, Steph Curry, big Steph Curry fan. And then John Morant is my new age player. I love John Morant.
I've got a question.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for sharing your story. I love game design and have taught game design to students for many, many years. And so I'm probably going to go out and order your game next. I'm curious, do you have something else in the works for the next game?
Yeah, it's a good question, man. So funny enough, at this point last year, we kind of looked at what our next game could be. And for us, right, we believe in how can we make something culturally relevant. So once again, something which we can all see ourselves in. That's the whole idea. And so we thought about how can we make the crossword puzzle or word games more culturally relevant. And so it's kind of funny that the game Wordle has taken off in big ways. It confirms that you can take an old game, right, and make it relevant to today and have it take off. So I think it kind of confirms our whole general theory, but it kind of sucks that we kind of missed that one. So that's one which we missed, but we also want to create, we have pickup basketball, we want to do pickup soccer and play on the fact that soccer and basketball are kind of two biggest global sports. So as we kind of grow as a company, we can grow globally with basketball and soccer being our two bedrock games for the pickup franchise.
Wonderful. Thanks for paying attention to cultural diversity too. It's really, really important to make sure that's in our games.
Amen to that. Amen to that, man.
All right, so thank you so much, Chi. We really appreciate you joining us here. This was an awesome keynote. We'll be sure to share it out too in our recording. I know that our audience will really appreciate your focus on community. It means so much to us, especially Project Event with community partners and the value there. We'll now move into student reflections.
I just want to say thank you so much. It was a wonderful talk and an opportunity to learn and challenge ourselves. So yeah, let's talk to the students about their journey with Project Invent this year. We're going to spend the next 10 minutes learning about our students' experiences. The two questions that they'll answer are, one, what was a significant challenge that you experienced while designing your product? And then 2, what helped you remain resilient or what motivated you when you experienced challenges? This is meant to be brief and informal, so each team will have a minute or 2 to answer these questions. So first, let's hear from Team Strong. We'd love to hear more about your year with Project Invent. What was significant in the challenges that you experienced while designing your product, and then what helped you remain resilient or what motivated you when you were experiencing challenges?
So I think that something that motivated us, especially when we were experiencing challenges, is just kind of the idea of creating a solution for somebody who like desired it, and that kind of helped like push us to overcome our challenges and to overcome the challenges that were introduced because of kind of our failure to understand who we're designing a product for. But then we pivoted and continued our research and tried to figure out how are we going to create a product that best fits the needs of our customer, right? And so that really motivated us. I think our motivation, especially in large part, came from that.
Great. Anybody else want to add anything to that?
I think I have one. Actually, this is Jillian.
Yeah, sorry. Well, I was thinking, well, there was a lot of motivation along with the fact that we did have very early like meetings because of our schedules were really, really busy. And I think like the fact that we could only meet like once a week for an hour to an hour and a half, that really motivated us to like work as hard as we could in the time we could, like the time that we had. And we kind of cherished that a lot.
Yeah, that's awesome. When time is precious, you got to use it well. Great. Thanks so much, Team Strong. Great job today. All right, Team Elevate. What were some of your challenges and what helped to keep you resilient and motivated when you experienced those challenges?
Hi. So we, our entire motivation was built around wanting to help our community partner. And we started off, we got to know the father, the son, and started to hear about like everything that they were experiencing, which was a topic that we were unfamiliar with. We couldn't relate to in a lot of ways. So it was a big learning experience in terms of hearing what people are going through that we take for granted, you know, every day. So I think that we got to start to understand how this problem was affecting everyday life in a way that we had not, you know, experienced at all. So the fact that we had the opportunity to help and use, you know, the resources, the teachers, everything to try to make an impact and influence, I think that helped motivate us and, you know, keep us resilient during some times where we had like hardships and came across some obstacles. And I think Isaac can speak some more on that.
Yeah, I mean, resilience was obviously a necessary trait in this process. I mean, Thomas Edison himself failed the light bulb thousands and thousands of times. And he said that he didn't fail, he just found thousands of ways not to make a light bulb. And I think we really embodied that mindset. And that was what helped give us some resilience, was the fact that we didn't see failure as shortcoming, but rather as learning. And our obligations to the community partner, as Ryan said, as well as to our own team, and our commitments that we had made really propelled us to push past those setbacks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we just got to learn a lot. And as we each had something to bring to the table. And I think that was really cool to get to play off and learn from each other's strengths and just like grow as a whole while helping someone and doing everything we can. So I think that we really focused on like work ethic throughout the whole entire, that was really important to us. And I think that everyone did a really good job of, you know, showing that. And I think the desire of the end goal was what kept us going. So.
Excellent. Thanks so much. Y'all did a great job. All right, Liz Luna, Team C. Tell me, what challenges and what resilience did you find?
So I think that our greatest challenge was definitely fitting to the demands of Mr. Pittman. He was very specific and had a lot of specific requests. And then we also had the problem of getting our microwave sensor or our sensor to work in general. That was a very big challenge for us because it was just, there we go, just getting the stuff to work. And we also had the problem of we only had 3 people for the whole project, so had to think a little more creatively than I think we normally would have had to. So.
And for what motivated us, probably just having this opportunity to do this sort of thing. We kind of felt like we had a responsibility to keep going and to figure this stuff out. And after that, we just kept on rolling, and it kept on motivating us to keep on going, keep on trucking, and just finish this thing off, finish strong.
Yeah, constraints can usually be quite the challenge, and you really do have to have that resiliency to work through it. Great job, guys.
Thank you.
All right, Team North Country, what about you? Challenges, resilience, what motivated you?
What kept us going the most is, like I said, I've known Emerson, our community partner, for a decade. I've known her since I was a little toddler. And I get to see her every single day at school, and seeing her struggle, and having our community partner be someone that we see every day and that we know her struggles helped us really keep our design in, like when we were designing our product, keep her in mind and being able to work around her. She had a pretty bad stroke in the middle of our design process and was in the hospital for a few days. And I think that, especially for me, pushed my need to help her and to be a good friend and to get the product done in time for her to be able to use it in real time.
That's great. That's great. I'm glad y'all were able to do that for her. Great job, guys. Team Decontamination Station, how about you guys? Challenges? What kept you resilient?
So a challenge we definitely had was our community partners. One was a volunteer department, while the other one was a paid department. And I don't know if you guys know much about firefighting, but there's definitely differences between the two departments. Like one's more fun than the other. And we definitely wanted to find something to tailor needs to both of our community partners.
Anyone else want to share?
Also, I would just like to add on to Salvatore that both of these departments are in 2 very different climates. So honestly, like a main priority when brainstorming in general was to think of how can we find a design that suits both partners, along with how can it impact and benefit the rest of the firefighting community as well.
Yeah, that was a great challenge to find multiple folks to help you with your design process. All right, Team Heat Seek. What were the challenges and what kept you resilient and motivated?
Some of our challenges, because we had the same volunteer or helpers as Decontamination Station, with our ice rescue design, it was also difficult to find the correct way to attribute our design towards the different climates that the fire stations were in. And some of the stuff that kept us going was the fact that the countless lives and tragedies that can be, and injuries that can be prevented in the future with our design. There are thousands of different drownings and just fatalities that are in ice rescues, or even like losses of human life just from search and rescue.
I appreciate that passion that you have towards making this design work because of those reasons. It's great. And finally, Team Dex, what were some of your challenges and what kept you resilient and motivated?
Okay, so a challenge would definitely be that we've just never done anything like this before. But what kept us motivated was our community partner, Shelly. like all the Zoom calls that we had with her, and seeing her really excited about us like kept us going even when we felt really challenged.
Awesome. Anything else to add? All right, great. All right, I think we've got one more minute before our judges are going to be back with us. If anyone has any last thing to add, we've got a little bit of time for that.
Amy, I think what we can move now into is just the introduction of the mindsets and the awards, and the judges actually just checked our back. So we'll introduce those and then you can get started with our awesome awards.
Great, okay. Let me share my screen then. So our panelists are back, as we heard, and they've made their decision, so it's time for awards. So let's hear a little bit about our 4 awards. First up, Need Finder Award, given to a team that really listened to their community partner. Then there's the Product Pivot Award, which is presented to a team that had to overcome many obstacles. The Moonshot Award is given to a team who identified and created a notably creative product. And last, but certainly not least, the Explorer Award, presented to a team that demonstrated a great amount of learning. Before we start awards, a quick word to our student teams. What you've done today and in the many months of hard work and innovation leading up to today is incredible. You've built something that few people ever will. You've built something designed to help real people in the real world, and you've done it as high school students. That is unreal. You've learned the skills to become the fearless problem solvers of tomorrow. And so if you receive an award today, that's obviously very exciting. But if you don't receive an award today, it's so far from the end of your journey. With that in mind, let's welcome back our panelists. Panelists, I'm going to turn it over to you to present our 4 awards. And when you present, please share the type of award and its description, as well as the awarded team.
Okay, I guess Stephanie and Ajit, we'll just start from the top of our list here. Okay, so the first award that, well, actually, before I start that, I would like to say that this is a hard process because you all did so well, and I was so impressed by everything you all did, and would love to see all of these become real products. So it's very hard trying to figure out which ones get these specific awards. So I just wanted to say that beforehand. But the one that I'll focus on is the Explorer Award. And that's the one where you prioritize learning. And the winner of that is Team Dex. So a couple things about that, just a couple comments. Some of the things, the qualities that we look for in the Explorer Award, one is agency, which means you learn independently. And I remember the answer to, it was a question I asked about what were the things you had to learn to do this? And the answer was, well, pretty much everything. That you read the Arduino guides, you looked on YouTube, and you learned independently. I thought that was just impressive, that you took on a challenge that in the beginning, you kind of knew essentially none of the key skills and learned all of them and built something that worked. Also, there's the notion of curiosity, where you have to research how things work. So you clearly researched the technology, but you also looked at the existing solutions and that they all required some kind of hand or manual or wrist dexterity, and which wasn't solving the problem of people who had dexterity issues. And then the last point was coming up with a new approach, having some creativity there. And everything else was about moving your hand or moving your wrist. And I loved how your approach was, what about just pressing a button? And not even 2 buttons, just 1 button to be able to pick things up and drop them. So great job, very impressive, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, guys, is the Need Finder Award. And I echo Ken's perspective on how difficult this was. All of you guys have done such a fantastic job and have made it much further than most of my graduate students. Don't tell them that. But the Need Finder Award is really encompassing empathy from my perspective. It's listening closely to your users and really making sure you design for them, which is a challenge in itself because you want to design bigger sometimes. We decided that Elevate really captured this award. You had difficulties that patients had, you had caregivers' perspectives and needs. So you had quite a lot of stakeholders that were involved and needed to be designed for. And it sounded like you gained empathy from all of them by listening to them and incorporating what matters to them. And you really used a lot of resources and had pretty big goals. So that's why we chose Elevate for Need Finder.
Thank you guys so much. We really, really appreciate it.
This means so
Great
much.
job.
Thank you.
Great job, guys. And then I unfortunately got elected to do 2 out of the 4. So I'm doing the next one as well, which is the Product Pivot Award. The way we understood this award to be designed is it's really for adaptive inventors that need to adjust and accommodate major obstacles. So the best inventors are ones that can continuously pivot, gain empathy, learn from their users, and then keep adjusting where necessary. We felt that VoxArt did a fantastic job of that. You talked about the fact that you'd initially designed this from the perspective of pressing something on the floor, and you recognized very quickly that your users needed it at arm height. It was going to be easier. It sounded like you learned independently, you had agency and empathy, and that's why we felt that you really deserved the Product Pivot Award. So great job, guys.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations. So I'm going to talk about the Moonshot Award, but before I do that, I have to say that just listening to all of you, I was thinking back to my years in high school, and I don't think I was working on anything close to the kinds of problems that you folks are trying to solve. And the confidence, the creativity, the curiosity that you have demonstrated, really, really well done. And I feel really good that we are creating a platform like this. So also kudos to the organizers for setting up an environment like this where our students can go and try these meaningful problems. So Moonshot Award, this is given to the team for the most notably novel or impactful idea. And we actually had a pretty healthy debate on which team should get this. And there were 2 teams that were very, very close. But in the end, we chose Team HeatSeek for this award. And the reason was that the idea actually has a direct impact on people's lives. You could directly be saving lives. So definitely very high impact. Also, the approach was very ambitious. For your solution to work, you need to have all the mechanical parts working properly, the motors, the electricals have to work well. You had a camera, the heat-seeking camera, that has to work. So there is a lot of things that could go wrong, but you still went ahead and prototyped it and had it working. So great job. We were really, really impressed. Awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I think that's it from us.
All righty, guys, that concludes our demo day. Congratulations to Dex, Elevate, VoxArt, HeatSeek, and then all of our amazing teams today. A huge thank you to our panelists, Keynote and ThoughtSpot, our audience and donors, and to everyone who helped these teams along their journey, from teachers to mentors to family. You can continue to donate to Project Invent to enable us to continue this mission of empowering young people to innovate all year round. Y'all have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, and congratulations to all our students. We're going to go ahead and end the webinar, and like I mentioned earlier, this recording is available, so a huge thank you to our teachers, our students, our judges and panelists, and our keynote speaker. Thank you to ThoughtSpot, too, as our sponsor. So at this point, we'll all say goodbye. Students, feel free to unmute and say goodbye, and we'll go ahead and end our session. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Good job.
Goodbye.